Hey, so you know that inner voice that you have that you keep listening and says to you that you're a failure, you never amount to anything, you're not good enough? That voice is lying. And also, if you listen closer to that voice, you will realize that that voice, the lies of that voice, are really, really familiar, meaning they are coming from some family member that kept telling you those things. And the question here would be who? Who does your inner critic sound like? Is it your mother or your father? And if I judge from what is it that you people like to talk most about on this channel, it's probably your mother. More specifically, your narcissistic mother. So the inner critic is an internalized authority figure. Basically, is an internalized parent. And in your case, it's a very mean, toxic, and berating parent. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to say phrases, and warning, this may trigger you, that are the most usual things that are coming out of the mouth of narcissistic mothers. And I'm going to let's see which ones ring true for you, right? Are you ready? Don't hate me. It's not my fault. All right, let's go. Should I also try and say it with like attitude? Let me just get into a role. All right. Who do you think you are? You're embarrassing yourself. Don't get too confident. You're not as special as you think. You're too much. Tone it down. Nobody cares. They're going to see right through you. You always mess things up. Why would anyone listen to you? You're being dramatic. Oh, it's always about you, isn't it? You're too sensitive. You're so selfish. You're asking for too much. You should be more grateful. You are ungrateful. You're a horrible child. I wish you were never born. Other people have it worse than you. Why are you always crying? It's not that big of a deal. Don't make this about you. Stop making problems. You are the problem. Nobody loves you. Nobody wants you here. You think too much of yourself. Somebody should humble you. Should I keep going? This is horrible. That's enough, right? I think you found some that resonate here. So how did these words feel when you heard them now? And imagine how it felt when you heard them the first time. When you were so young, and also the person you love the most, or, your parent with so much authority over you and so much influence, was saying those things to you. Now, I'm going to say some things that come as consequence. And again, let's see which resonates with you, because these are like the natural byproducts of having someone attack you this way, is that you have an inner critic that will be very loud and make sure that you're not treated this way ever again. Which means that if somebody convinced you of all of these things and you believe those things about yourself, you're going to have a lot of problems to function in life in all sorts of ways. But particularly, you're going to struggle in showing up for yourself. You're going to struggle in being able to create things and create the life that you want and believe in yourself enough. Obviously, your self-trust will be eroded. Being raised hearing things like that really sets the tone. And these like the foundational bricks that built you are just a bunch of toxic things that you believe about yourself, and a lot of toxic shame, which then your inner critic sort of like absorbed. And now when you're trying to do life in any sort of way, from a simple thing to a bigger thing, the inner critic will just broadcast some of that to stop you. Because the inner critic anticipates that all the things that your mother said to you are going to be the things that somebody else is going to say to you, because she was right. If she saw it, everyone else will too. So, of course, with an inner critic like that, you will struggle. And possibly you see it because you second guess everything you do. You're not able to take decisions easily. You abandon every creative idea you've ever had. You talk yourself out of every opportunity. You constantly feeling like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not willing. There's all this fear of showing up for your own life and the things that you want. You hold back your opinions when people are having conversations. You like shrink. You're like, I'm not going to say anything, because of course the mixtape has a lot of things to say. If you say something, right, it's going to say, who said we're going to listen to you, right? So what do? You edit yourself. You struggle to follow through. You assume that everybody judges you, and possibly you are hanging out with people that do. You expect to be rejected all the time, and your default is to please others. In addition to that, if you're always trying to do something and you have this voice saying all these horrible things and broadcasting them back to you, it means that whatever you do is never going to be enough, right? You can never do enough for someone who will never be content with what you do. So when you are trying to do life in some capacity, this voice is going to be berating you the way your mother did, and then you will never feel that you've done enough. So even if you do enough, even if you do try to overcome what this voice is saying, and you do show up, it's never going to be enough, basically. And you will just stay stuck in cycles of self-doubt and chase perfection and become a perfectionist and never really feel like whatever it is that you do will be enough. Because the truth of the matter is, if you have such a horrible inner critic, basically, if you had such a horrible parent that then helped create this inner critic, then chances are that you do not trust yourself. How could you, right? How could you? When all of this is happening internally, trusting ourselves is impossible to do. So narcissistic parents and narcissistic mothers really have an effect on pretty much everything they touch, right? Everything about us, who we became, how we are, how we feel, has been infected by her words and her actions or lack of thereof. And so when we're trying to heal, we will realize that even if she's no longer in our lives, got no contact, or she's no longer alive, we still carry what she taught us within. And in a way, we carry that mother within, which is why the parental wounds and the mother wound are so serious. Not only because what happened then, because it happened, okay, arguably it happened and it's done, it's over. But this parent lives through you now in a way that you think this is you. So you live in a very hostile inner environment with an inner critic that constantly berates and attacks you and doesn't allow you to just show up, right? Because showing up, that's the thing. The most scary thing that happened in your childhood, and I'm sure a lot of scary things happened, by the way, I'm not trying to minimize it, but the scariest of all was showing up as yourself. Because whenever you did that, you were punished, humiliated, shamed. So obviously you've built all these defenses that now your inner critic has absorbed these words for, so that you never come into that place again. So basically, if we're raised by people like that, we adopt the way they treated us as the way that we will treat ourselves through our inner critic, as a way to help us stay protected from future failings and future humiliation. I will tell you something that was an epiphany for me when I was doing my own inner work. I did a lot of work with my inner critic, of course, and all of that. But was really what really helped me really understand and bring it home was that most of the things that I wasn't allowing myself to do was so that I would avoid how much my own brain would shame me. So eventually I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not doing this not because I'm worried about what the other people are going to do to me. I'm not doing it because I'm worried about what I will do to me. That's ridiculous, right? And obviously because I was doing a lot of parts work, which is the work that I do with hypnosis, and I do it in Heal. Of course, we have a session on inner critic, and we split it up and we see it as a part, and we can have these types of conversations. But for me, it was like this, like, really, I'm not doing what I want because I'm scared of what I will do to myself. That's ridiculous. And it shouldn't have been the case. If I was ashamed of what other people would do, at least it'd be like, okay, I have no control over that. And that for me was like, wow, we live such small lives because of how our mind has learned to protect us. Because everything, when we're kids in environments like that, everything was dangerous. Showing up as yourself is dangerous. Succeeding is dangerous. Saying your opinion is dangerous. Being loud is everything you do could have resulted to humiliation. Everything you do, except staying quiet, except being obedient, right? So our minds pick up those patterns and are like, okay, let me internalize all of this and not let you do any of those things that you did that resulted to that. And then nobody's going to treat us this way. And then if we do ever, nobody externally is going to be like, you're too much. I mean, maybe, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. What really matters is how we will treat ourselves. So for me now, if somebody says, I think you're too much, I'm like, too much of what? Like, what does that even mean? Because when we don't believe in those things anymore, if people externally tell you something about your person, it doesn't really feel as humiliating as we would fear it would, because these external people are not your parents. But of course, the first time you heard someone say, you think too much of yourself, you're dramatic, you felt humiliated, you feel hurt because it came from a person that was important to you. Now, if a random stranger says, you're being too dramatic, why do I care what this person thinks about how I'm being? What do I think? Do I think I'm dramatic? Do I care that I'm dramatic? You see what I mean? So coming to this place of being comfortable to be ourselves requires a sense of also feeling like we're gonna be okay with people not liking us and people having all sorts of, like, it doesn't mean that, okay, well, the world is a loving place. Nobody's ever going to tell me those phrases or think these things about me. No, it's about the inner critic is informed by the parent. And then the inner critic is informing every action that you do and filtering it through what the parent said. And you don't show up as yourself to protect yourself now from the imaginary external world that hates you. But once this filter goes off, the imaginary world, which is a very real world now, may actually hate you. And you may come against people saying things about you. The most important thing, though, is what you think about you and whether you believe it and be like, oh no, of course they saw through me. My mom was right. Or it's like, okay, people don't have a great opinion of me. I can live with that. I can survive feeling like I'm not everybody's favorite person type of thing, right? Obviously, nuance here. If everybody around you thinks you're a horrible person, I don't know. It's something to look at here. If everybody, but if some people don't like you or they say things, or you are too much for some people, you are not enough for some people, you are too dramatic, you are doing it wrong, you're too confident, you are for some people. But the idea is what you think about yourself. So healing our inner critic is really, first of all, eradicating the inner parent within and replacing it with a parent that actually is nice to us. And we do that through reparenting. Of course, how else we would do it? Reparenting is the answer of most of our internal problems that came through failed relationships with our parents. Because reparenting sets the experience and the premise for a better experience with ourselves, right? So we're doing that. We reparent ourselves and eradicate this mean parent that we have within, and we replace it with a good parent. And we also learn. We have conversations with our inner critic, and again, that's how we eradicate it eventually. We can't really heal the inner critic, in my opinion, as much as we can actually reintegrate something different into the inner critic. Because I believe the voice of the inner critic is a kind of important voice to have when we live in societies, because although we can be really, free and do whatever we want, there are some type of rules in our society, that having an inner critic to kind of filter that would be okay, or having some part of us that is aware enough of whether people around us are like really shocked or really disgusted or really judgmental, right? It's an information that we need. Either we're in the wrong place or we're doing something extremely bad or wrong, or, like, it's not like a black or white thing here, right? But that voice will be nicer and will only show up when necessary for extreme situations, to be like, hey, what if you saying that was not really the nicest thing to say? You saw how that person reacted. Maybe you were too mean. Oh. And that's where we reflect, instead of being like, you're horrible, everybody hates you. You see, that's why everybody hates you. Two different worlds. We heal the inner critic by establishing an inner parent, and also connecting with the part of that is the inner critic, so that we can resolve this relationship and heal. I tell people to do the session several times, because you keep coming back to the inner critic in different layers. I don't think it's a one-off, because it is a very strong and foundational aspect of our minds that also has to do with our survival. So that's how we heal from our inner critic. Reparent ourselves, remove all that toxicity and that vocabulary, because that vocabulary is a joke. It's just mean stuff a parent said. So we don't want to adopt that anymore. So when we do hear it, we're like, this again, really? As if somebody's just, making an unoriginal joke. It's like, really? And we work through reparenting, work through the parts, and then we go out in there and realize that people will judge us. Our inner critic's biggest fear is people will judge us. But there's nuance here. If I have a healthy belief about who I am, and I feel good enough and not like I'm a monster, when people judge me, I'm able to reflect on that judgment, and whether I, first of all, care about it, it is important, and it is valid. And if we're not able to be sure about that, we can consult a friend that we trust, but it should be something that we can be internally aware of, right? As the world interacts with us and judges us and has opinion of us, we don't have to collapse. Our idea of self doesn't have to collapse. We don't have to stop doing what we're doing, stop showing up, becoming invisible, shaming ourselves out of our own existence because people have opinions of us that don't sound good. Much like we shouldn't have been pushed and shamed out of our experience because of your mother having such a horrible opinion of you, which was mainly a projection, but still she presented it as a reflection of you, who you were. But it wasn't true, and you would know that, and you do know that. But you would know that even better if you healed and saw how much was projected onto you, how much shame, how many horrible things you've absorbed that you now made yours, that also now keeping you stuck. And now it's just in your mind, right? It just, all this history lives in you, and you essentially are keeping yourself stuck. But there's a way out, and there's a way forward, and you know how to get there. So, heal, move on, go out there and do life, and let people judge you. And you will survive it. That's it for today. If you want help and a structured journey to healing from all of this, check out Heal, and I will see you soon.